Hi everybody, Intuitive Edge here. Welcome once again to my channel. This is where we take an intuitive look at what's going on in our world. Now, those of you who are empaths or intuitives, you've probably been feeling a lot of these shifting and changing energies that many people have been talking about. So right now, people are really beginning to feel it. Some people feel it as an angst. They feel like something big is coming, but they don't know what. Other people are experiencing physical symptoms, getting dizzy out of nowhere, nausea out of nowhere. That doesn't seem to have a root cause in the physical body, but yet they're feeling these experiences. I've talked to some of them. I've experienced this myself, and it can be very discombobulating to feel these sensations kind of out of nowhere. As an intuitive, I've learned to understand that sometimes things happen and I have to check myself going, okay, is it me? Is it something physical with me? What is going on? Or am I, as an empath, as an intuitive, am I being an anchor point in the earth for the tumultuous energy that's going on around me? That's kind of how I've been feeling lately. I don't know about you. For those in my audience that are intuitive, maybe you've been feeling these things too. If you do, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your story, because this has been something that's really been an issue that I've been dealing with over the last several months, and maybe even longer than that. I think I've been starting to feel kind of a shift coming in, wondering what's going on, basically. What is this? What am I feeling? And also trying to process it. I've had some second thoughts about a lot of the topics that I want to come on here and talk about and cover. And with the things that are changing and the things that are shifting, and there's a lot of talk about moving from this heavy density that we're in, this 3D reality where we're stuck in this physical matrix. And yet there's this spiritual component that is coming in, lifting people up, saying, you don't have to live just for the physical. There's a spiritual component. There is a compassion component. There is a connection with the higher mind, the divine mind, that we think of, maybe used to think of as out there, is really something that we are learning to embody and move from that higher mind. And sometimes the topics that we see in the news are often done to keep humanity from rising above, from living from the heart, living from joy and compassion, and keeping us stuck in fear, in a lower density vibration. There is an ongoing spiritual war that is happening. All of us are involved on some level in this spiritual battle. And part of the battle is to keep humanity fighting each other, squabbling over who gets to be the voice of MAGA or the left or whatever, who gets to be the voice, who gets to own the truth narrative. And quite honestly, it feels as though engaging in the squabbles and the differences and the pettiness is just fueling that divide. And I have been wanting to get on here and talk, and yet at the same time, I feel like I am wanting also to anchor in these higher energies that lift humanity out of this density of fear and kind of tune out a lot of the riffraff that's going on in politics, in a lot of different things, and a lot of topics that I do care a lot about. But I've also known that I can't let those things bring me down into fear, make me lose my joy, make me feel like I need to take sides. So I've been very deliberate about holding my peace and my energy, because I think that there are a lot of things that we're going to be seeing coming up that is going to kind of rattle some cages. And the key, I think, that all of us, anybody hearing my voice, needs to hone into is to not let things rob your joy, steal your happiness, steal your peace of mind, and cause you to sink into fear. There are some things that are definitely being done to pull and drag people down. And it's like, when we recognize the hook, the little subtle thing that hooks us in, and then suddenly we're off in this other direction, into fear, into the craziness of the moment, into taking sides, into wanting to, say my side is better than your side, that kind of thing. This is what I've been dealing with, and I know a lot of you probably are feeling the same. And how do we rise above it? How do we stay out of fear? How do we add to where we are going? And I have had to literally tell this fear vibration, you can't go where I'm going. You can't come with me, because we are ascending. Humanity is finally waking up and recognizing that we are not just automatons, some sort of human suit robot that just lives for its own self and dies, and that's it. A lot of people are waking up even out of the religious background that they may have had that maybe helped them, guide them, but they're realizing there's something more to my relationship with the divine, God, what have you. I think the fear vibration is what's really being ramped up right now, and the fear and the fighting and the infighting. And I'm sure most of you have seen something in the last 12 weeks that have definitely caused people to be fighting amongst themselves, trying to divide these people against those people. Divide, 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 divide and conquer. So I have not gone anywhere. I know I have not been posting as much, but I intend to change that. And the way that I'm going to be at peace with myself in the midst of posting more here is to be an uplifting voice that helps to pull people toward the higher good, and not feed the fear vibration, not feed the us versus them vibration. This is about all of us coming up higher in our understanding of who we are, utilizing our gifts, our talents, and recognizing our special connection that we have. And how do we tune into that? How do we recognize that within ourselves? And how do we access those energies when the whole world is in chaos? We perceive it in chaos. When our mind is telling us to fear. Fear is not who you are. And you may have to remind yourself of that if you're in that fear vibration, and maybe you are not, but I know a lot of people are. I've talked to them, I've seen them on YouTube all over the place, other places too. People are afraid, genuinely in fear. And we have to learn how to snap that fear vibration and move into the truth of who we are. We are not made of fear. I think there's a scripture to that effect, that we have not been given a spirit of fear. So if we do not have innate within us that spirit of fear, then where's it coming from? Who is doing it and why? How do we overcome it? How do we move past it and stay on the higher timeline? There's been a lot of talk about the timeline shift. And humanity's vision of itself is beginning to condense into a more finalized timeline of where we are headed. Over the last couple of years, we've all been kind of riding this wave of what do we want to create? How do we want to move through life? And a lot of people are learning new things about themselves. There have been spontaneous awakenings, people all of a sudden coming into spiritual gifts that they didn't know they had, spiritual awakenings that they weren't expecting or prepared for. And all of this is moving us because humanity is shifting into a higher density being. We are not the low vibration, dark, heavy, animalistic type that we've been. We are moving out of that. And the controllers of the world would much prefer humanity to stay in that slave mindset, a slave to the system. Somebody that is basically does what they're told and is controllable. And those who recognize that I can access the mind of the Creator within me, and I am not limited to this density, that I am an unlimited being having a very limited experience, but that's all it is. This is not me. This is the all having an experience as me. My point is, with who I am and what I'm about and what I'm feeling and sensing as an intuitive, I might be saying things a little differently, and I might not get into the minutia of the fear vibration of current events and the us versus them of the current events. So those of you that have been long time with me on my channel, you maybe have seen me kind of morph through different phases of growth. And there was a time when I was, doing video after video. I was like doing 2 and 3 videos a week, and I would love to be doing that again. And I think I will be there again. However, I can't do that if I'm going to be perpetuating this false matrix narrative designed to keep people in fear and to keep humanity from raising its conscious level. So if you're on board with me in a new kind of revamped version of myself, and I feel like I've been evolving over the 7 or 8 years I think I've been on YouTube, then come with me, join me on this. Where I'm going, I want, it is my intention to bring humanity up, not drag us down in fear. So thank you for letting me get that off my chest. I wanted to say that. I've been wanting to get on here, and honestly, I open up and I feel like I'm blocked. Like I just can't get into what I would normally say about certain things that are happening in the world, because I feel like it's all part of that closed off matrix that keeps people in that lower vibration. And I'm not resonating with it. I can't be a part of it. So I want to get into the cards and maybe come from a little better perspective. But let's talk, let's do I had a couple of questions from my audience. Now, these are kind of technical questions about the 3D that we're all experiencing, this earth, this density. One is about Mr. Mamdani. Now, a lot of people are afraid with him winning the mayor of New York because his views are so out there, and a lot of people are afraid of what that's going to look like. I knew that he would win, and I didn't see it as negative as a lot of people see it. Now, not that I'm not a communist. I do not subscribe to communist viewpoints, because I think that communism ultimately robs people of their autonomy and their creativity. it clamps down in the worst possible way. But I felt like there's a reason he was allowed to win. And in my last video, I talked about how New Yorkers might need to reframe his win and look at their own spiritual experience of him and what they're telling themselves and how they may have played a role in his winning. Is he going to finish his term? That was a question that came from a subscriber. Will he finish his term? I'm just going to pull like 3 cards for him, like a past, present, and future. Will he finish? Will he finish his term? Okay, let's see what the cards say. All right. First card out is the Ace of Cups. Generally, aces are a yes card. Okay, so let's see what we got. Interesting. I've got the moon underneath. I like to flip the deck over when I'm done. So then we also have the Ten of Swords, card of endings, and then a card of restriction. Now, interesting having those 3 cards together. If we look at past, present, and future, this yes card coming in, but it's fading on the past. The present is this card of new beginnings, also endings. Something ending, something beginning anew. This card of restriction, I'm wondering if he may not seek a second term, if that's what that means. Because we have this ace, this nice energy of moving forward, and it's kind of falling into, it's kind of butting up against this Ten of Swords, endings, and then a card of restriction. And then the moon underneath. Moon is about the hidden. Moon is about things that are behind the veil, secrets. So I'm thinking there could be something that maybe he gets into office and maybe it's harder for him to do the things he wanted to do than he thought it would be. And maybe he does 1 term and 1 and done, maybe. I'm wondering if that's what it is. Because it is tough work when you run a campaign and you make all kinds of promises. When you get into office, reality sometimes hits you in the face, and it's a lot harder to do the things that you promised because you run into resistance. You run into laws, you run into judges, you run into all kinds of things that get in the way of what you had promised or what you expected. And not everything can be foreseen, and not every promise can be easily kept. So I'm thinking that may be the case for him. All right, so there was somebody was asking about Canada. So I'm going to shuffle up here as we talk. This is, will there be a federal election in Canada this year or in the spring? So I haven't been following Canadian politics. Is that a thing with, there may not be a federal election? Are there people thinking that may not happen? Fill me in on the comments if you happen to know. But we'll just shuffle up here and asking for the right and perfect cards to fall in the right and perfect order according to the highest and best. If it can be known, I ask to be shown. First card is the card of fear, anxiety. The Nine of Swords, crossed by the Two of Swords. Now this is really interesting. Nine of Swords, fear, anxiety, crossed by the card of denial, not wanting to see something, and then the Emperor up top. So there's something about structure and control happening. Okay, so here's that 9 crossed by the 2. We have the Emperor up top. Emperor is about control, authority, power. And then we have the Hierophant, which is about tradition and the power structure. There's something about refusal or not wanting something and yet being forced to
confront something about a blinder being on. And then we have a messenger coming in on the future of this. This is a card of having to either leave a battle or fighting a lost cause, knowing when to leave the battlefield, when to give up, when to call it quits. And it's all about money with that 10. This is the card of confusion. And then we have, I stood it up so I could see it, we have the Fool on the outcome. This is really interesting. The energies here. This feels like there is a power struggle or power shift happening, and it's causing some people to lose hope on the battlefield. This was the bottom of the deck, card of sadness and betrayal, that 3 of Swords. If for any of my Canadian friends, let me know if this makes sense to you or what you see in this. Because I'm feeling like something about a power structure is causing some disconnect or some, like there's friction between the populace and the power structure. And it's causing some people to feel betrayed and like they don't want to have to look at something. They would rather just it work out. But they're being confronted with this very real fear. And this having to pick your battles or choose what hill you want to die on, so to speak. And then the confusion and the Fool, that new beginnings. This is also saying there's a new beginning around the corner because the messenger connects to the outcome and also to the environment because it's right next to each other here. So there could be a real shift or change that is either desired or going to happen anyway up in Canada. And that whatever this feeling of hopelessness and not wanting to face something, there could actually be something turning around. Oh, I didn't even look at the bottom of the deck here. A new beginning. And again, that Messenger of Pentacles talking to the 10 of Pentacles, and now we have the Ace of Pentacles. So some new beginning is coming in the financial realm. I think that's it for tonight. I just wanted to get on here and talk about kind of my whole process. I think that going forward, the focus is going to be a little different, and we're going to talk more about things that we can do to keep our collective vibration from sinking into those fears or taking those baits, those hooks that keep us on the lower density timeline. There are some things that people can do. Of course, dropping down into your center, into who you are, spending time in meditation, being outdoors, being more in your body, in tune with what's going on around you, doing your healing work. If you have unhealed trauma in your heart, in your life, that stuff is going to fester. And give yourself some grace and maybe seek out a therapist or some counseling that can help move some of that trauma out of your life so that you can be free from it. Because trauma will keep you stuck as well. And lots of people have unhealed trauma. It's just part of the human condition. But hopefully, going forward, that is not going to be the case. It's been the case, but I think that we are moving through some profound healing energies, and perhaps we will be able to write a new story going forward that does not include
abuse, neglect, trauma, and that we can be more authentic with who we are becoming. Just things that I do. I have this thing called clearing spray, and it's available on my website, soulfasense.com. But this is a very, very powerful thing that I've been using, and I feel like it has helped me open up. This is made by a friend of mine who has roots in Peru, and this is like a family recipe. And what they use this for is to bless your space, to clear out any stuck, unwanted energy. And so I just kind of spritz it overhead and breathe it in. And people can use this in place of sage for people that are sensitive to smoke. But saging your place, using a clearing spray, prayer, meditation, singing, sound, drumming, any type of bells or sound that can move. Vibration and sound is huge, and that is going to be the wave of the future, is sound healing and sound therapy. So bookmark that, because that is going to happen, and hopefully sooner than later, because there is so much technology behind sound that we don't even know yet. But science is going to be catching up to the spirituality of sound therapy. So sound, scent, all of that. Anyway, link in the description if you're interested, but clearing spray is really powerful stuff. All right, I love you, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging with me, and we will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.